Hello and welcome to the North Metro SBDC programming.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Raul Lopez, and I am the Assistant Director for the North Metro Small Business Development Center. And I'm excited for y'all to be here. I know, depending on where you're coming from, what perspective, childcare could be a bit of a interesting and trying times right now. And so we are trying to do as many things associated with childcare as possible, as many webinars, workshops, classes, advising, etc. So I do want to mention before we get started here, Dora is our childcare business specialist. How many of you know Dora? If you know or have seen Dora before, just drop a 1 in the chat. If you're like, I really don't know her, I haven't seen what she does, drop a 2 in the chat. Let's just get an idea here. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Catalina, how's it going?
So 2 if you
Hola, Dora.
haven't been
Hola, ¿cómo
associated with
estás?
Dora before. So what I really want to stress is Dora is her specific specialty and expertise is around helping businesses, childcare businesses. So there's a lot of, for the SBDC, we have business advisors. We have generalists, we have specialists in marketing, various different types. And all of those advisors, or you're able to access them for free, one-on-one through the SBDC. As long as you have a business in Colorado, you can access free advising through our facilities. Now, if there's specific things associated with the childcare side of things, and Dora can talk a little bit more about what those points are specifically, but she has obviously lots of expertise and knowledge about CCAP issues, all the different regulations around childcare, and how that impacts your business. But she also has business knowledge. So it's a great combination that can be really powerful.
Bro, do you know
and
if we're able
so
to
as
do
far as the
subtitles in Spanish?
say that one more time.
Do you know if we're able to do subtitles in Spanish?
Yes. I'll put those on here shortly. Let me see.
Cool.
Thought I had put that. Oh, there we go. Okay. So as far as the advising goes, I will drop a link in the chat a little bit later, and make sure that if you want to sign up with Dora, you can do so and get in front of her. Again, it's free. It never costs anything to do one-on-one advising. So it's a great resource. Take advantage of that. And I think right now more than ever is probably an important time to do so. If you feel like you're lost, you're struggling, you have questions, just sign up and let's get connected. And that way she could start helping you. All right. Well, I will go ahead and turn it over to Dora and let her get started here and explaining what she's going to be doing.
And then, Raul, I sent you those slides as well. So if you want to share those, that'd be fantastic. Hi, everybody. My name is Dora Esparza. I'm the Director of Business Services and Community Development at the Denver Early Childhood Council. I also do business advising for the SBDC. I've been in early childhood administration for like 20 years now, or something ridiculous. Let's not talk about it. Too long. We've been doing this too long. So I know there's also been a lot of CCAP struggles. We had done a training around CCAP, I believe, last week. I'm also doing that same training today at 2 o'clock. So if you guys missed that, you can also take it through the council as well if you're curious about CCAP or kind of how to work through that CCAP freeze. I will also apologize ahead of time because I am totally getting a cold. So I have like this tickle in my throat. So if I pause to like cough, don't mind me. Everything's probably fine. I just have this tickle that I cannot seem to get rid of. So today we're going to learn a little bit about early childhood leadership specifically. So that's kind of what this training will be. While we're getting this up and going, do please grab a pen and a piece of paper, because as we go through these traits, we're going to kind of mark down what you know that you're good at, and then maybe some areas where potentially you have some growth opportunities. Leadership is definitely a journey. It is not like, oh, I did it, I am the best leader ever now. Like, it just doesn't really work that way. It's kind of an ongoing process. So it's always important to kind of think about where you can improve. Okay. Great. I can see this, and this looks good. All right. So, Raul, as we go through, I'll just kind of say next, and that'll cue you to share the next slide. The objectives in this training is that we're going to learn about the qualities effective leaders have and the specific ones that are associated with effective early childhood leadership. Um, these are really important because you want to make sure that you are able to lead your team effectively, and that really helps with retention of employees. We know that the early childhood career landscape is kind of rocky, as it has been for a very long time. And with some of the funding that looks like it might not be renewed, it's just really important to try to keep your teachers. We're also going to talk a little bit about blind spots that leaders can have. And we're going to also go through some of the NACI qualities that support effective leadership as well. We're going to really think about your strengths and leadership qualities. And it's helpful for you to really be reflective during this process and think about, like, yes, that I'm good at. And how do you know you're good at that? Has someone told you they're good at that? Have you heard you're good at that? Have you taken some kind of test where it's like, you're great at communication? Like, cool. And if there's other things where you're like, I know that that could be an area for me, or I've heard from people that I'm not great with communication, that might be an area for you to kind of work on. And we'll also kind of have a breakout group where you guys will talk to each other about, this is what I know is a strength and this is an area for opportunity for growth, and, talk to each other about how you might be able to do that. Next. Yep. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the essential leadership characteristics of effective leaders. Again, just write down the word we're talking about and, like, a plus or a minus. Like, this I'm good at, this I'm not, or a check, however you kind of want to track that. But do really kind of think through this as we go through each of these characteristics. Next. Okay, so there's kind of a difference here between the boss and the leader. And in ECE specifically, there are times where you need to be the boss. If it is a licensing violation, if a child's left on the playground, if someone's background check comes back badly, if there's toxic gossip or you have toxic employees, that's really a time for you to be the boss and to say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to deal with this immediately. We're going to have hard conversations about it. And that is really kind of when you're telling people what is going to happen. For leadership and retention of staff, you really want to be down there with people and you want them to feel like you'll always pitch in and help, whether that's giving them a break, whether that's really trying to value their mental health. All those kinds of things show that you're kind of in that work with them. And that's one of the main things that keeps your people. So that's kind of a way to think about these things. It's not one or the other, it's really both at different times just because of the regulatory nature of early childhood. Next. Okay, so jot it down. Plus, minus, area that needs attention, whatever. Take some notes and really take this time to think about your specific leadership qualities as we go through this. Next. So the first one, and the one we hear about most often, is actually integrity. So that is how much people think that your words and actions match and are aligned. The things that you say you're going to do, that you actually do follow through and do those. So if you say you're going to check on if they can get a break, or you say that you're going to find a discount for them on health insurance or something, whatever that is, like, this is really how much people believe that you are going to do what you say you're going to do, and that you're going to act with integrity. And that is really one of the top traits that we've seen in leaderships that is most valuable to employees. And doing that builds their trust in you, where they know that you have their back. They know that you say and follow through with the things you say you're going to do. It also facilitates high standards because then the people around you or the ones that you're leading will also work with integrity. So it's kind of a contagious thing. It also lends to your credibility as a leader so that people trust and believe that you will do what you say you're going to do. Which doesn't mean that you won't sometimes forget something because you guys are wearing a billion hats and have a million things to do. So it's not like, oh, see, I forgot to follow through with that one thing. Now I have no integrity and everything's just falling apart now. It's not like that. But, like, do your best most of the time to really make sure that you're following through on what you need to do. And that really creates a solid reputation for you as a leader as well. And that builds your personal leadership more than any of these other characteristics do. So that one is really, really important. So again, just put like plus, minus, check, whatever you want to do of like, yep, I do that. I think I do that. Or like, I'm not sure that I'm doing that. And that's something you can definitely work on. Next. Honest, open communication. So along with honest, open communication comes some amount of transparency and vulnerability. You're not a robot. We are all human beings. Like, this authoritarian style of leadership has gone by the wayside a very long time ago. It's really more about like, I just came in today. My kids were just struggling to get out of bed. It was hard. The dog threw up everywhere. I'm just like really frazzled right now. Like, let's talk about this a little later today and just like let me get my act together here for a second. Like that is just open, honest communication. And when you can do that, then other people will be vulnerable and communicate with you as well. And that really kind of like, waters the plant of your relationship with other people to demonstrate that it's okay that you are being transparent and that you're honest. Everybody has struggles, everybody has hard days. The more you can really exemplify that with your staff and demonstrate that level of vulnerability and transparency, the more they can do that with you. And that will really open up the communication. Setting that example of honest, open communication and expecting the same from your staff as well. And sometimes that means customizing how you communicate with people. So not everybody communicates in the same way, and you always have those people that are generally kind of negative. Like you can change up how you communicate with people based on who they are and what you know about them. And that is also really helpful for open communication. And then authentic, good listening. There's definitely a difference between hearing something and really listening. So as a leader, if you're not in a place right now at noon on a Wednesday to really authentically hear and listen, then pick a different time where you can really be focused on that person. But you want people to feel like you're really listening to them and that they're being heard. That is like 90% of what people want. Even if they just want to complain, like they just want to be listened to and heard and feel valued by that. So that's part of why open, honest communication is very important. Next. So here's just kind of a slide. You guys will get a copy of these slides, but some do's and don'ts. You can definitely tell sometimes when you're talking to somebody and they're thinking through what their answer to you is going to be instead of just thinking about what you're saying. You can like see it in their face when they're like, but yeah, they're just like listening to you because they're ready to answer what you're saying instead of authentically really listening. People that try to fix things. I often hear this from women about their husbands. Like I try to tell him stuff, but he's always just trying to fix the problem. Like that that desire and drive to fix the thing is not always the result of good, true, valued listening. So really do kind of think about some of those things when you're listening to people when they're talking to you. Stay curious, ask questions. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about that? It sounded like you and Jenny had an issue this morning with the art project you were doing in the classroom. Like, tell me a little bit more about what went wrong, or where do you think communication didn't happen, or how could we fix that next time? Those curiosity and follow through questions demonstrate that you're listening and also that you care about the issue and you want to resolve it. So just because you're authentically listening doesn't mean you're not trying to fix it. It just means you're listening to really understand the problem before you try to fix it. So feel free to kind of look at this slide as you get these slide decks. Next. So another essential leadership characteristic is really connecting with your staff. One of the things that we've seen that really keeps people, even beyond the ability to pay them more, is just them feeling cared about as a person. And we see that time and time again, especially in early childhood. We have like very sensitive, caring, good-natured people in ECE, and they really want to feel like they are cared about and valued, and that you have like a genuine connection with them and that you care. So being positive, having a purpose, listening with empathy and compassion, again, that's a lot of like that transparency, openness, and that you really care about how they're doing that day. You're not just like, oh, hey, how was your weekend? Good. How was your weekend? Good. Like, oh, tell me about something exciting you did this weekend. Tell me something that brought you joy this weekend. Like, instead of just the same old things and trying to connect with people just because you feel like you have to, how can you do that in an authentic way that really makes them feel cared about and valued? And some of that is really how you talk to people and how you ask the questions you're asking. Saying, "How was your weekend?" "It was good. How was your weekend?" Like, no one's gonna tell you, like, it was horrible. I mean, they might, which is a step, that's great. But try to think about, like, the questions you're asking and really getting to something that you can learn about them that you didn't know before, because that is how those connections happen. Know their personality, interests, strengths, weaknesses, preferences. All of that kind of comes along with performance management too. What are they good at? Are they trying to get better at science in the classroom? Like, hey, how was that PD you went to? What did you learn? Those kinds of things. So really kind of think about connecting. And then on that flip side of that, be careful of connecting too much, because you can like display favoritism or a perception of favoritism if you're like getting too chummy with your staff. Next. So encourage personal and professional growth. This is really important because people want to feel like they're growing even if they're in the same positions they've been in for a very long time. So they want to feel like there's opportunities for them to grow more, learn, get coaching, go to higher ed, get certifications, take PDIS classes. All that kind of stuff shows that you're invested in their professional growth, and that's very important. And also, sometimes we get people in ECE who have personal growth patterns that are not necessarily linked to ECE. So sometimes we get people that are going to nursing school or people that want to be counselors or whatever. Like those people's professional path might not be where you'd want it to be because they might have outside interests. But if you can still foster that and kind of help them along that pathway to wherever they're trying to go personally, then that will help you as well. Working to empower your staff is really important. Let them have decisions, give them a budget for their classroom. Really kind of provide appropriate challenges for them and delegate. I see a lot of directors that just have some control issues. It's okay. We can let them do stuff. It's going to be fine. That demonstrates trust and like your faith in their ability to make good choices. So do kind of think about that as well and encourage creative problem solving. So if somebody does come to you and they have some kind of issue, ask them how they've worked to creatively solve that and what they've done to try to solve the problem and work with the other person. So don't forget to mark these. Personal and professional growth. Do you do that? Is that an area of strength for you in your leadership? Is that an area where you're like, I don't really check in on that as much as I should? Write that part down. Next. Oh, the positive attitude. Some days it's very hard to do this, but it's important to try to focus on the good in any circumstance and to try to find the positivity in whatever's happening or the people. There are definitely some people in ECE that are very, very grumpy, but they probably have some really great strengths that are lending themselves to your program, and that is a benefit that they have. So try to focus on the positives of the people that you're leading and the solutions-based focus. Sometimes if you have people that are kind of toxic or gossipy or negative, then always listening to them can be like a way for them to just kind of vent all the time without taking accountability. So if you do have a person that's doing that often, ask them like, well, what have you done to solve that? Or you seem really creative. Like what creative solutions do you see in this situation? And try to help them get more solutions based so that you're not always listening to the venting all the time. Have a work growth mindset. So really thinking about how can you grow? What can you learn? Every opportunity that you have to like work with your people that you're managing and solving conflict is an opportunity for them to grow and learn new skills. So don't solve everybody's problems for them either. Like really help them grow and think through what solutions would be. And then try to display enthusiasm and confidence. Some days that's really hard. Some days it's not that hard. It depends on how much coffee you have and how much sleep you got. But try to come in and like you as the leader really do set the tone for the program. So if you're always exhausted and you're not taking care of yourself and you're burned out and you're just like not in a good place to lead, that really does get contagious to the people that you're leading. So try to come in with a positive attitude. Or if you do come in and you're grumpy, be transparent about why you're grumpy. I got up, nobody would get up, nobody went to school, the dog threw up, like whatever it is. Like come in and transparently be vulnerable and honest about that because we are all people. But if you do come in and you find yourself kind of grumpy or negative that day, you can recognize that and that's okay. That doesn't mean every day is going to be a picnic. That's just not how life works. So, plus or minus on that one. Next. Okay. Kind of along the same lines as not solving everybody's problems, work on teaching and not just telling. And that's a big part of coaching. Like if you guys have the EC coaching credential, that can also kind of help with this. But you're really trying to get people to like talk through their issues and not just tell them. And getting feedback and soliciting your staff for like, okay, we have $1,000 for PD. What should we do? Like, what are the topics you guys are interested in? Is there any speakers you guys want to hear? Get some feedback around what you're doing instead of just always kind of dictating what's going to happen, because that will help them kind of get on board for whatever it is you're trying to do. And it's great for you as a leader to be able to say, we heard that we want to do, I don't know, a PD movie day, or we want PD around social emotional challenging behaviors, or whatever that is. Like, if you can say that what you're doing is in response to feedback you're getting, then that's really helpful. Next. Okay, setting clear goals and expectations. So one of the things that we notice sometimes with performance management is that people are not living up to your expectations, but they might not know what you expect out of them. So if you're seeing like, there's a lot of gossip or like we have people that are late all the time, are they clear on what the expectations are and the consequences of some of those expectations? Like if there's widespread behavioral issues around your staff, it could be that they just really don't understand what the expectations are. Or maybe you think they do, but they obviously don't. So, or there's no follow through on that. So, really thinking through those expectations is important, and then also setting clear goals for your staff. So, this year we want everyone to take 5 hours of PD that they've chosen. How are you tracking that? Are they tracking that? Is it in their file? Do you talk about it often with them? Are you checking in around that? And this is kind of another part of that growth mindset. Like, are you growing? Are you learning? Are you doing new things? Are they able to follow their passions, either personal or professional? And kind of how can you support that? But having those clear goals is really important, not only for the individual person, not only just for yourself as a leader, but also for your program overall. So maybe that's rating at a level 4, or maybe that's accepting more CCAP children, or maybe that's implementing a new curriculum or whatever that may be. Having those goals and knowing kind of where you're driving your people to is what helps you really accomplish things. And being accountable to your parents and families. So if there is a goal where you're like, we want to implement a new social emotional curriculum by the end of this year, share that with parents, let them know where you're going, and then that will also kind of keep you accountable to keeping that goal moving. Same thing with fundraising. Like if you're raising funds for something, where are you at? How much money do you have to raise? How can parents help? Anything like that to kind of get people on board will help you accomplish your goal a lot easier. So plus or minus on that one. Next. Oh, feedback. All right. So it's really important that you get feedback from your families and also from your staff. So you probably do like an annual family survey, but like how often are you getting feedback from your staff? And is that anonymous feedback? Is there times where they can share that feedback with you directly? Do you feel like if you do misstep that somebody will come call you out on it or bring it up to you? If you're not demonstrating integrity, is somebody going to come tell you like, "Hey, you said you'd follow up on that and I never heard back from you?" Or is there no feedback happening for you at all? Or are you not getting feedback from the people that you're leading? And then when you're giving feedback, giving specific, direct and honest feedback. So that would be like, "Oh, Raul, you're doing a great job." Well, that's not really helping him. He's probably like, "Well, that's nice. Okay, whatever." Now, if it's like, "Oh, Raul, you took them on that field trip to botanical gardens, and I saw how you were pointing out those butterflies, and the 3-year-olds were really understanding kind of that cycle that you were demonstrating about why butterflies fly," or whatever it is. Like, it's very specific and direct, and it also needs to be timely. So, like, that day when that happens, you want to give that feedback, which is part of why ongoing feedback is really important because sometimes we're waiting until like annual performance reviews to do feedback, and that can be a very long time. If Raul took them to botanical gardens today and his performance management review is in December, I'm probably not going to remember that he did that. He probably won't remember that he did that. It's just going on too long, whether it's positive or negative feedback that you're giving to your employees. You just really want to make sure that it's timely and direct and very specific. Giving feedback with examples is really important, and having kind of those regular check-ins. So a lot of this feedback aspect for your staff is really around like their performance, their expectations, successes that they have, and a lot of that positive recognition. It's kind of like, you want to feed the behaviors that you want to see repeated. So instead of being negative and recognizing when someone's late or they're gossiping or they're not following dress code or whatever, try to focus more on like, "Hey, you did this and it was great. I loved how you did X, Y, and Z." Or, "Hey, so and so's parent pointed out how great that art project was the other day." Like those things and that specific recognition will get you more of the positive behaviors that you want to see. So plus or minus on that one. Next. Personal leadership feedback. So this one can be kind of hard for people, but if you're not getting feedback, then you don't know what your areas are to grow in because you might think you're great at something and you might not be that great at whatever that is. So how often are you getting feedback on your leadership? Does your staff feel like they can honestly provide you feedback if you're not doing something well or if there's an area for growth? And then how are you kind of soliciting that feedback from your staff? And then it's not only just like, I'm getting feedback that I'm not doing great with my open, honest communication, and people feel like I might not always be genuine in my interactions. Okay, well, whatever. Like now I have that feedback. If something's happening like that, especially for one of these essential characteristics, it's really important to act on that and think about it. Like, okay, I'm hearing that my interactions with people, they might not feel as genuine, or I'm not taking the time to really listen to them. What can I do about that? Well, I'm going to try to take a training about it. I'm going to get some coaching about it. I'm going to work to improve it by really making sure that I stop in the moment to truly listen and value that person. Or if I can't listen right then, I'm going to make a meeting later or find them later in the day where I can really authentically listen to them. So do act on the results of the feedback you're getting. Don't just hear it and be like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, really try to act on that, because when people are giving you feedback, they kind of expect you to do something about it. Be transparent on your own goals and progress on achievement. Just like you have personal and professional goals for your staff, you should also have those for yourself as well. So if you want to work on feedback and you're like, I need to work better on getting staff feedback around activities, PD, whatever that may be, what are your goals on that? How are you going to do that? And then share that with the staff. Like, okay, so I'm really trying to work on my communication, and this is what I'm going to do. And if you guys notice any kind of changes for the positive or negative, like, please let me know what you're seeing, because I'm really trying to work on this as a leader. And that really helps you stay accountable, just like you want them to be accountable to the goals you're setting with them as well. Next. There's a lot of these guys. It's going to be a long list for you. It's going to be fine. We're going to get through it one thing at a time. Next one is being open to new ideas. So sometimes, especially when we've been in a position for a very long time, it's hard to take ideas from people because you're like, well, this is just how we do it. It's how we've always done it. This is the way it is. Changing it would be a lot. Then we'd have to explain it and think of a new way to do it. Like, it can be very hard, especially if you're kind of going through burnout, or, ECE is a very challenging field. Sometimes it's like, I don't feel like I want to redo this whole performance management thing with you guys. I don't really feel like I want to do a new curriculum. But when you are open to new ideas, that's really what helps your program change and grow. And to keep up with the competition, you really do need to be moving. You can't be the same program you've been for the last 25 years, because it's not conducive to the success of your business. So it's really important to be open, find new ideas, find new curriculum, think of new ways to do things, find different partnerships, always kind of try to be innovative. I think we get stuck in like this weird quality improvement loop, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't feel like we always need to be improving quality and striving for whatever. I don't think that's helpful. But the innovation piece is really important. What are you doing that's different? Because those things will get your staff excited and like keep them going. Like, even if they're burned out, sometimes doing something new and different can like light their passion again. And that's really what will keep them there, as opposed to like just being stuck in Groundhog Day for years. Like, nobody wants to do that. Think about other points of view and solutions. So maybe you're really excited and you're like, look at this science curriculum. This would be totally great. We could totally do this. Well, if you just implement that and you don't have your staff on board, or you're not getting feedback and it's something that's going to be really challenging for them, maybe that's not a great idea. So if you have something that you think could be innovative, get other points of view, share it with the staff, or have them come and say, I feel like we need to do something different with art or science, or we want to add on to our curriculum with a social emotional aspect. What do you guys think would work? Ask them and try to get some other points of view around that innovation part. Next. And then this one's kind of personal motivation. So thinking about what keeps you motivated to do what you do every day and what is really motivating your staff. So this is kind of this Maslow's hierarchy of, people need physiological stuff. Generally, it's money. They need money for food, water, housing, those kinds of things. They need to feel secure in their job. And in a job position, that security comes around knowing that they're not going to be like suddenly fired. They're not going to be called in and they haven't been doing something right for the last year and no one told them. Like, they want to have that psychological security, because that's what's really important for them to stay in that position. That belongingness and love is really about like the group that they work with, that part about feeling cared for and valued, listen to, those genuine connections, like all of that is kind of that belonging piece. And then the esteem part is really those personal and professional goals. I feel like I'm getting somewhere, I'm accomplishing something, I'm learning something, whether they stay with your program or not, like a lot of those things they can take with them no matter what they do. And it shows that you're really investing in them. And then the self actualization is really just them feeling like they're living up to their full potential in the job that you have with them, that they're cared for, they're moving, they've kind of got all of these things. And that's kind of what this looks like in a work environment. Next. Okay, so we're going to split out into a breakout room for about 10 minutes. Raul, can you just kind of split people evenly into 2 rooms, or as evenly as possible?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so in these rooms, I really want you guys to kind of talk to each other. What qualities were you like, yes, I do that. That is a thing I do. I'm great at that. Okay. And then which qualities were you like, I am not so great with innovation and I really do just like to do the same thing all the time because it's easy and I feel kind of stuck. Like, what are these things as we've gone through this list that you really are passionate about and good at? And which ones are you kind of like, ah, I'm not so great? And if you guys kind of see areas where you're like, I wasn't great at open communication, but then I realized I could do X, Y, and Z, share that with your group. Because this is kind of a place and time to really talk about these leadership qualities and what that can look like for you guys. So we're going to give that about 10 minutes-ish. We'll come back at about 12:45. And if you have any questions, you can come back to this main room. Actually, Raul, why don't we put them all in the same breakout room so they can. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Penny and Michelle, you guys were apparently the superstars of the breakout room. How did that go? What did you find out? Hold on, Penny, you're muted.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
That's funny that you say that because you were talking a lot about like being the leader and being the boss, and we're family childcare providers, so we really don't have that. My worst is the feedback, but
Yeah.
I do a lot of mock trials, mock trainings, and
Nice.
it really helps me. I was telling Michelle, it really helps me with my feedbacks because I used to be really nervous about it when they would come in my house, but I've changed a lot of things like diapering stations. I switched some things up and just things like that. My personal motivation is probably my worst, I guess is what I would say, because I don't know. It's winter. I'm ready for spring. I was telling Michelle. I'm just, even though I have a huge area of supporters, I have a lot of, I call them colleagues because we are doing the same thing. But I still, I just kind of feel like, oh, come on, spring. I want to go outside with these kids. More than just let's go in the back porch here.
Yes.
I have a big back porch, but so.
Thing. Man. How about you, Michelle?
I'm sorry. Well, I'm a family childcare home provider, and I am new this year, so I am a little bit. Should I be here? I'm kind of learning from everybody. So yeah, I'm just learning. I still have my family at home who helps me, and so I think I can definitely fall into that trap of just this is the list of things that need to get done, not pausing to, genuine connection. And even with my own family or my families that come and drop off their kids, I'm a little bit more like, okay, on to the next thing that needs to get done, my checklist. And so that's a good reminder for me to pause and, try to seek those genuine connections and how's the other person feeling. I just kind of have to be conscious of it. That's kind of more my personality. Like I have to purposely slow down a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. I feel you there. I mean, for family childcare homes, there's a lot of benefits because the feedback that you get, you don't have to worry about getting feedback from 20 different staff members. You just have the families you serve, and then you can really create something based off of the family's needs that you serve. And it's not 100 families. It's like,
Right.
12, 13, whatever. Like, you can really be responsive and really grow a program based off of the needs in the community and the needs of the families you serve. And that's really cool.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It can be more personalized in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great for
Dora,
like family retention. Yes, ma'am.
sorry, I just interrupted. I had a quick question though. On that feedback thing, I used to do that, but I had the same 5 questions. I was gonna ask you, do you have any place that you like look for, or do you have any kind of template that you would suggest for family childcare? Because it was hard for me to come up with questions because most of them are childcare, based, like
Yes.
school provider, like a school.
So if I were you, Penny, I would think about asking questions you really want the answer to. Like, don't ask
Okay.
just for the sake of asking, ask because you really want to know. So maybe you want to know, like, what community resources do you utilize? Are they going to the library? Are they going to the rec center? Like, is there something they're already using? And if they're going to the rec center, is there a way to maybe partner with the rec center? Or if they're going to the library a lot, is there a way to have the library come visit your program or something? Like, I mean, that's just an example. Like, ask questions you really want to know the answer to. Don't use a template. Don't ask for just the sake of asking. Ask because you want to know, because it's going to inform your program and it will change what you do. You know?
Yes, and so then here's my next question, because my feedback is more, I guess, personal questions.
Hmm.
Like, how do you feel I'm doing, basically? Only I would break it down into 5 different questions that all ask the same question.
Yeah.
And
So
so it was like,
how about like on a scale of 1 to 10, how welcome do you feel when you drop off your child?
oh, scale. I'm gonna write that down. So smart.
Because like the yes or no's, you really want to think about it in like, how can I get as much out of this question that I'm asking as possible?
Yes.
And because when you're just like, do you like me? Yes or no? Am I a good childcare provider? Yes or no? Like, tell me the top 5 reasons you bring your child to my program. Because that will tell you, like, these are the 5 things I'm good at. Or if there's something that you feel like I could change about my program, what would it be?
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
like, what is the most important part of your child's learning to you? Or tell me the top 3 things you really want your child to learn before they go to kindergarten or whatever it is. Like, think about getting more like qualitative information instead of just yes or no. Because if you give people like yes or no, then they're just going to probably always say yes. Like, it's like thumbs up, yes, everything's fine. You want to ask like deeper questions that get you the information that you need to work with your program.
Mhm.
So, like, if you know the top 3 things that they want their child to learn while they're at your program, then you can say, okay, they really want to do art, science, and gross motor. Okay, well, we're doing lots of fine motor, but maybe I should get like more gross motor equipment for the backyard. I'm going to try to get a grant for a play structure, whatever. They want us to
Right.
do more science stuff. I know there's this trail kind of down there. Like, maybe we could do more nature walks or something. Like, that what they want their kid to learn will then tell you what you can do to help facilitate that, which will then make them happy.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Thank
That
you.
is the feedback you're looking for. It's not like, do you like me? Do you feel welcome? Yes or no? Do you feel like your child is safe here on a scale of 1 to 10? Or, whatever you'd kind of want. The scales help with like those kinds of things. Like the yes or no, you can always put it on a scale because yes or no can be a big difference for people. But if it's like a scale of 1 to 10, how welcome do you feel? And you're getting a lot of 8s, that tells you that there's room for improvement there. Or if you get all
Right.
10s, then like people obviously all feel very welcome, and that's great. That means you probably don't need to do anything else with that and focus on something else.
Perfect.
Does that help? Like the feedback you're trying to
Yeah.
get, you want feedback that you can do something about. You don't want to just ask for the sake of asking. So
Right.
and don't ask for feedback you can't do anything about. So if you're like, what do you think about our outdoor play space, but you don't have any money to change it and you don't have any opportunity to do anything with it, then don't ask that. Because if they're not happy
Right.
with your outdoor play space, you can't change it anyway. So like, don't ask that question. Does that make
That
sense?
makes sense.
Good.
Yes,
Okay.
that did help. That helped a lot because it was, I just kind of felt like it was redundant. I was
Yeah.
just, And then my next question I had about feedback was, how often do you ask for feedback?
So I think Colorado Shrines will tell you to ask for feedback on an annual basis. I think like quarterly is good if you're trying to get some different information.
Okay.
So ask quarterly if you're like, we need a new goal that we're going to set. So let's ask in January. And then we got our feedback, and in February, we told the parents, like, we heard that you want more nature involved in the classrooms. Okay, so we're going to work on this next quarter before the summer. We're going to do more nature-based activities, and this is what we're going to do or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it needs to be constant, but like do even just 3 times a year, like do some check-ins and then grow off of what you hear. But don't do it so
Right.
much that then you're like, I have a million things to do. I gotta do that. Like that's just too much.
Right. Right. And I think if I did it quarterly, I would probably just keep to like 3 or 4 on a scale.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And if you want to make an appointment with me, we can kind of go over like an example feedback thing. So if you want to draft up some questions, we can meet and like really get into it for your program.
I actually would like to meet with you, and I don't know if I can just blurt this out there, but I have some struggles in my business part of it.
Mm-hmm.
In the
Okay.
I've done it all my life, so I got the motion, but the business part of it, I have a lot of like really personal questions. So I would like to sometime or another set up a time with you.
Yes.
That'd
So
be
you can
great.
set up a time with me and then we'll see. Raul put the link in the chat to set that up.
Perfect. Thank
So
you.
let's do that and then we'll kind of go through your specifics and get you set up with if there's other specialists too, like for budgeting or whatever, like we can kind of triage that as we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. All right, we're gonna kind of zip through these last couple slides. And then you'll also get a copy of this too. So if we go a little fast and you're like, I don't even know what the end of that was, you guys can look through this as you get it. Okay, so these are just kind of some blind spots that people might have. A lot of directors, again, going at it alone. Even if you are a family childcare home, there's other family childcare homes in your area. There's a big like statewide family childcare network thing. Like try to be plugged into that as much as possible because that will help you get training opportunities and stuff. Trying to do too much, avoiding difficult conversations. I don't know what it is about ECE, but people will avoid those hard conversations like you would not believe. Sometimes you have to have that conversation with that parent that's always bringing their child late or the one that's bringing their child all the time, even though they're sick. Like some of those things you just kind of have to do, and that's just a part of running a business. Over promising, just not being innovative. A lot of the things that we've talked about are kind of on this slide. Next. So these are some of the characteristics, again, just like to recap, and this is what NACE talks about, which is you never stop learning. So you're always trying to grow, get feedback, change things, learn, go to PD. It's a journey and not a quick fix. Again, it's not like, oh, today I made it. I am the leader now today. Like it's an ongoing thing of like learning and things change. So it's a constant like pathway you're taking. It's never like, I did the thing. Like it's never over. It's just a journey of like reflection, picking different things to work on. Don't try to do everything all at the same time because that never works. And then you'll just feel overwhelmed. So don't try to do that. Time management, emotional intelligence is always a good one to kind of work on. And then kind of prioritizing what you want to do. So when you're asking for feedback, what are you prioritizing? Is it your outdoor environment? Is it your classroom? Is it social emotional stuff? What are you pick what's important to you at that time and ask questions based on what you want to focus on. Don't ask questions you can't do anything about. Next. Okay, next. So we kind of talked about the qualities of leadership. Again, some of that is having that vision, and the vision for your program will come from what you're hearing. Like you have a place you want to get. You want to be a high quality place where children feel safe, families feel welcome. That is generally your vision. So then you got to think about how you're going to get there and like all the little steps you're going to take to like kind of take you down that path. Next. Okay, so effective leaders use the correct leadership style for a given situation. Again, if you have a family where there is a safety issue, a health issue, whatever that may be, like sometimes you have to just be the boss and figure it out, and that's fine. But if the leadership piece is really more getting your program to be where you want it to be and growing it in a way that is responsive to what your families need. Having a meaningful sense of work, having some kind of direction. If you're feeling burned out, sometimes it helps to decide to do something. If you feel like you're in the groundhog thing and you're like, I don't know what I'm motivated for. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just over it. Like do something different to like get you moving because you moving will help get your families moving. It'll help get relationships and partnerships in place. When you stay still, then nothing's happening. So it's hard to be passionate when you don't feel like anything's going on. Next. All right, so something else you can do kind of based off of what we did today, you can think about feedback, those qualities you want to learn, whatever that may be, and really kind of make some goals for yourself. So if you're like, feedback's an issue, I want to create a really responsive quarterly family feedback questionnaire. It sounds like a lot of words, but it's not that big of a thing. Like, okay, this is the thing I'm going to do. I'm going to set this goal, make your goal and kind of set what you're trying to do. Next. Okay, so once you know what you want to do, then you can kind of create a plan. So the feedback thing is just an easy example, so we'll use that. Your vision for what you're trying to do with your program. I want to be a high quality program in this space where children do a lot of art and they really excel in art and can follow their passion. Okay. Where are you now and what do you kind of need to do to get to that goal? Do you need parent feedback? Do you need a grant? Do you need a partnership with an art museum? Is there a partnership with the library you can do? Think about what some barriers and benefits might be. Like, well, okay, some of the barriers to art might be that it's expensive or that it's really messy, or maybe you have families that send their kids to school in really nice clothes and they're not going to like it if their kids get dirty. I don't understand how this happens, but it's very common for some reason. I don't get it. Okay. What are the barriers going to be and how can you kind of address those before they become a problem? And then what will the benefits be once you reach that point? So if you're a high quality program that has a lot of art and the kids are happy, like what are the benefits to the children and families you're serving by increasing the amount of art you're doing? Or outdoor play spaces or science or nature or whatever that is. And then how are you going to kind of lead people to get that goal done? So if you're a family childcare home, you're really trying to get the families on board. Like, this is what I want to try to go. This is what I want to have. I want to do more art, more nature, more whatever it is that your focus is. Then you have to get the families on board, which is a little easier than trying to get a bunch of staff members on board. So then you can tell the families, like, so tell me the best art project that you've ever seen your child do and why was it good? Or maybe you do a training for them on the difference between arts and crafts, because the crafts are really like that cut and paste thing where everything kind of looks the same. And the art is really more like finger painting and just free self-expression. So maybe you train your families on that, like, just so you know, these two things are different and this is why art is great for kids. So how are you going to lead your families on that? Create a plan. It doesn't have to be super serious, but like, in the next 6 months, I want to increase the amount of art supplies I have by 50% or whatever. Like, it doesn't need to be super crazy, but those little pieces will help you make sure that you're moving and that you're doing something. And then get feedback on the process and what can be changed. So if you do increase the amount of art in your program, talk to your families again in 6 months and say, hey, what have you thought about the art projects we've been sending home? Which one was your favorite? Which one did your kid tell you about the most? Or really, we're going to be increasing art in the next 6 months. If your child tells you any day that they did a really great art project and you really feel like they loved that, please let us know so we can do more of that. Like, then you're just kind of getting your families on board and that will help you kind of with that change. All right, next. Any questions? There's a lot of talking. Is everybody still awake? Are we good? Everybody's fine? Okay. Thumbs up from Michelle. All right, good. People are conscious. All right. If you want to talk about any of these things a little more in depth, feel free to make an appointment with me, and the appointment is in the chat. Cool. Look, we ended on time.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you both for
Cool.
being here, and Faith as well. So I will send a follow-up email with the recording and the slides, as well as links to book with Dora. And I've included a wait list form as well, in case you're interested in our childcare class, business class. Okay. 6 weeks long. It's free. We don't have the exact dates established yet, and that's why we're doing the wait list for now. So go ahead and put your info in there, and we'll reach back out to you once we have that up and running.